and he got upset. I'm not looking to work with him no more. This dude's arrogant. He don't want to fight nobody, right? You're talking about a guy who cut Tim Tszyu off because Tim Tszyu told him to wait. How does Turki Al-Sheikh feel about Jaron Boots Ennis's response to his attempt to make the big fights and the excuses that Jaron Boots Ennis has had for not taking the fights? And we have to include Teofimo Lopez in the conversation as well. Might Turki be done this on the back end of announcing this new rollout of Zuffa Boxing in 2026 with TKO, right? This on the back end of working it out with the zone. Has Turki given enough grace to the boxing space to where he can get to his business, which is building up a brand that's going to benefit Riyadh season? Because we don't have to play games and act like Turki wasn't here with purpose and with a reason. And I can recall back when he actually made the first Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk fight that he spoke on the 2-year. If you guys remember, he promised 2 years of boxing. We didn't know what was going to come afterwards, whether he was going to leave boxing after 2 years or whether he's going to change his approach. So has his approach changed? Is he in a different space right now to where he's not really interested in paying Jaron Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz Jr. $10 million a piece to make this fight? On top of that, a relationship with Oscar De La Hoya that has seen better days, as Oscar De La Hoya has become one of the biggest advocates to speak against what Turki Al-Sheikh is working on and trying to put together, right? So all these intangibles play their role in this conversation, and we have to sit back and ask ourselves as fans the reality of the situation. Do we believe Jaron Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz Jr. is going to fight next? Everybody can have their own personal perception on it. Me personally, I doubt it. I'm gonna tell you the truth. But if it does happen, how does it happen? It happens if Vergil Ortiz takes control of his career the same way we asked Errol Spence to do it, the same way we asked David Benavidez to do it, the same way we've seen Floyd Mayweather do it, right? To take control of his own career and push back at the promoter and let the promoter know this is the fight I want no matter what. I don't want anything else but this fight, and put their balls on the table, right? And make it clear that there's no other fight that interests him than this. Ryan Garcia has gone a ways of trying to do it, and he's kind of like, it's been an uphill battle for him. He was able to make the Tank Davis fight, but he was able to make the Devin Haney fight, but ultimately, that didn't work out well for him. Teofimo Lopez tried to put his foot down for the fights he wanted. That's been a rocky road for him. Is Vergil Ortiz Jr. willing to go down that road and potentially, from the outside looking in, look like he's legitimately challenging Oscar De La Hoya? I got a funny feeling he's not. I got a funny feeling that outside of Vergil Ortiz Jr., nobody on his team wants to see him inside of the ring with Jaron Boots Ennis next. Vergil Ortiz Sr. has spoken against it. Robert Garcia has spoken a ways about it, and so has Oscar De La Hoya. Vergil would be on an island by himself, going against everybody around him that he's put faith in to guide him in his career. I don't see him doing that. The reality is Vergil Ortiz Jr. is probably going to look to go in the direction of getting that Errol Spence Jr. fight. And if it's not the Errol Spence Jr. fight, then also look for, I'm be real with you, and this is me just playing mystic magic, right? Like I'm looking to my crystal ball and just give you an assessment on a business level the way I see it. I'll speculate to say that Mauricio Suleiman is probably going to get involved in this conversation when it comes to this WBC title with Sebastian Fundora. And I would speculate to say that don't be shocked if Sebastian Fundora doesn't fight Keith Thurman next, that he doesn't actually make a fight happen with Vergil Ortiz Jr. We'll see. We have to be patient, wait on the sideline as this develops, and we'll see what it turns into. It is what it is. But that being said, if Jaron Boots Ennis isn't fighting Vergil Ortiz next, what's the next fight for Jaron Boots Ennis? Great question, because another thing that's developed at 154 is he has gotten himself a regular or an interim WBA title that should put him in line to find the Boss Baharu for his title. But we've heard the announcement made officially on Xander Zayas' Instagram that these guys will be meeting each other for a unification fight. And normally, this is a normal thing that unifications would trump mandatories. These guys are fighting each other in Puerto Rico at the end of January, and Xander Zayas and Abbas Baharu will take their shot at becoming the only unified champions in the 154-pound weight class division. So that being said, Abbas Baharu has been taken off the board right now for Jaron Boots Ennis. What's left? Well, I'm sure Jaron Boots Ennis, we know, loves activity, so he's not going to want to be inactive. I think the name that stands out to a lot of people is Bakram. that he should be trying to fight him next. We know Bakram is tied up in a fight in a negotiation that I think may have. As a matter of fact, I think it's been announced. I think they're fighting the same night as Xander Zayas on the at the end of the. Not, is it Xander Zayas? I think on that same night, Bakram will be fighting Josh Kelly to defend his title. So they're off the board. Rick Meridian spoke on potentially Jermell Charlo fight. I'll be honest with you, I'm not mad at that fight at all. I'm gonna be dead serious with you. I'm more for that fight between Jerron Boots Ennis and Jermell Charlo than I am between Vergil Ortiz Jr. and Errol Spence. Why? Because Jermell Charlo is a tried-true 154 pounder, the last undisputed champion at 154 pounds. Really, nobody's taken any wins off of him. Or taking any of those belts off of him inside of that ring, should I say, because he has some losses on his record. But ultimately, that fight would be a great fight for Jerron Boots Ennis. And arguably, if he beats Jermell Charlo, technically speaking, we can call him that guy, the number one guy at 154, because he beat the guy, right? That's what he did. So that fight would make sense. I'm hearing Rick Meridian talking about putting a fantasy card together where he'd had Vergil versus Errol Spence as a headliner in a co-main event. It'd be Jermell Charlo and Jerron Boots Ennis. I'm all for it. I'll be honest with you. It's the next best thing, right? That's a fight that we call the next best thing. And obviously the winners of each one of those fights would fight each other, right? We've heard rumors circulating about Jermell Charlo fighting Errol Spence, Vergil fighting Jerron Boots Ennis. We've seen Jermell Charlo put 154 on blast. It all works out. And if that's what it would be, then that's what we'd have to accept, and I wouldn't be upset with it. But I do think as far as Vergil Ortiz Jr. and Jerron Boots Ennis fighting each other, I do feel like the powers that be may be rolling the dice unnecessarily, because I don't think Vergil is guaranteed to beat Errol. I think I would favor him going into that fight, and I definitely don't think Jerron Boots Ennis is guaranteed to beat Jermell Charlo. Both those fights are competitive fights, and a loss on either side from both these guys could get in the way of the fight happening, right? Unless they both lost at the same time, right? Then maybe that puts him in the ring as well. But it is what it is, right? I'm looking in the background right now, see my guy Ray Davis in the back. I don't know how long he's been back there, but he'll let us know, I'm sure. A shout out at my guy Ray Davis in the building, man. Shout out to Ray Davis, man. Ray, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Clay. What's good with you, baby? Good. Yourself on mute.
I'm on mute?
Now you're good.
Oh.
You were talking, but you weren't coming through.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, man.
What happened to your camera? Your camera ain't working. I don't know.
I turned it off. I turned it off.
Okay, cool.
I'll explain that to you later, but
it's all good. It's all good.
You know what I mean?
All good, man.
Yeah, man. For the most part, like, I think everything you dialed into is 100%. I literally broke the news in the chat myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the team of Vergil Ortiz seems to be moving a different way, where Vergil looks like he wants to get this fight up and going. I think we got to start listening to the fighters. I think, you know what I mean, regardless, win, lose, or draw, whatever the case may be, the fighters are there to challenge themselves. They're there to make the fans bigger fans of the sport. The sport is growing when these fights happen. Did I think Vergil took what do you call it, like when you like gulp the spit in your throat, like you take that big turtle? What do you call it? Pause, because I don't want nobody in the chat like.
The pause is definitely necessary. I definitely think it was necessary.
Yeah, definitely. But when you trying to, like, you sit there and you gasp for air, you go that deep. Anyway, move forward. Anyway, when he seen Jerron Boots Ennis, he called him over, like you said, like a snap of a finger, like, yo, get over here. And then he comes in, and then he looks at him. I was like, yo, I think he was surprised he was bigger than life, bro. Like, he was like, yo, this dude is really not my size. He's supposed to be my size. This dude's a giant. You know what I mean? I think I mentioned this the other day. I think that set Vergil into a reality check, but I don't think Vergil was ready to back down. I think I knew he was going to say pause, so I knew it was going to happen. Anyway, Clay, I was like, yo, this is crazy. And then the news, all these fighters at the fight, right? You had Earl there, you had Charlo there, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Something's in the mix here that we don't know about. Oscar invited those guys for a reason, and they were there on invite, and he invited them there because he knew the potential of Jerron being there and Eddie being there, and we knew that they were going to climb into that ring and be like, yo, what's up? Let's get it on. It happened. It goes forward, and then we hear all the back talks. We heard the father talking, senior talking before the fight, talking about, you know what I mean. That fight was there, almost like we could have had it. You know, he turned it down. Let's, you know, I mean, we're looking to make the best fights possible, whatever the case may be. Then you get Oscar with his nonsense. Robert Garcia, you know what I mean. I don't know, wouldn't necessarily say he's backpedaling, but Robert Garcia is sitting there doubling down on that. He's not ready in 5 year thing. You know what I mean? Doubling down on that kind of sort of without saying the same thing. So you're seeing his team move funny after this. After Virgil sits there and calls this guy out, it just looks bad. Doesn't look like it's ready for the for us to have it in the ring. But I think it happens. I think with the powers that be, even if Turkey doesn't get behind it, I think it happens. I think Oscar is just afraid of.
Does it happen next?
I think so. I think no matter how we look at this, the bell has been answered. Turkey's phone has been rang. You know what I mean? I think we have solidified this fight. Turkey has wanted this fight for what now? Not once, but twice. And now it's been announced on television. Who's in Turkey's pockets better than Eddie Hearn? Yes, this fight happens next. The money will be there. I don't know about no 10 million. That's just diabolical. But you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, we'll see. Hold on one second. Let me just go address his super chats in the building. Shout out to my
okay.
guy, Ill Will 85. I appreciate the love, man. That's my guy, Fighting Words with Bang, and Greg Hackett always said we love the love, man. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, how you going to demand 10 mil from Boots side, but claim to be the A side is nasty work. Virgil fights in Saudi because of 20% more than Oscar can get. Yeah, man. This is one of those situations, and I agree with you. I think asking, people don't understand. But when you asking for money like that, it's like that right there speaks to risk management. As soon as I hear that kind of stuff happen, it's risk management, right? You're embracing the idea that Boots can beat your fighter, right? You're embracing that idea. You're accepting it, going, you know what? My Boots can mess around, beat my fighter. If he's gonna beat my fighter, I want my fighter to get a whole bunch of money. Even when Floyd Mayweather used to do it with Manny Pacquiao and asked for these crazy amounts of money, we understood there was risk management there. We understood that in those type of negotiations, Floyd Mayweather is acknowledging his mortality, and in this situation, so is Vergil Ortiz. If not Vergil Ortiz, his team is acknowledging Vergil Ortiz's mortality, right? The fact that that he can die in this fight, not literally, right? But I'm just saying that he can lose this fight. So $10 million is very close to being a outpricing yourself, right? It's a way of people can. I think there's a legitimate duck jacket that can be put on a conversation like that. Now, I said it earlier, and I'm going to keep on saying it because one thing I don't want to do is confuse it with the fighters. I don't believe these fighters are scared to fight each other. I don't think anybody's trying to duck each other. I don't think any of that is part of the conversation. And even pushing back a little bit of what you said, Ray, as far as him seeing how big Boots was, he was ready to get in the ring with Sebastian Fundora, who's way bigger than him. So I don't think these things are necessarily the factors being played as far as the fighters are concerned. But I think when you're talking about Oscar De La Hoya, when you're talking about Vergil Ortiz Sr., when you're talking about Robert Garcia, and you're talking about all these outside entities who have vested interest in Vergil Ortiz being potentially the future of Golden Boy, and I think I believe Oscar De La Hoya looks at Vergil Ortiz as a potential future Canelo Alvarez in boxing. I think he sees him that way. The way he fights, the way his knockout ratio, the skill set he brings to the table. I think Oscar has a lot invested in him. More invested in Vergil Ortiz, I believe, than he ever would in Ryan Garcia at this point. Right? He looks at Vergil Ortiz like that's my golden boy, and he's trying to handle him with white gloves. And the situation gets diabolical to when you start to see the fighters actually address each other in the ring the way they did last night, have the world on edge looking for a fight to happen, and then you hear all this talking going on post that episode happening, and it's all negative towards a fight being put together. It sucks to watch it, right? So
Right.
that's the answer to ill will. Let me get to pull up Pop Shop right quick. Super chat $5 from Pop Shop, man. Appreciate you, man. We love the love, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Says Boots got to play the long game. Fight the winner of Xander and Abbas. Virgil fighting Errol. Virgil fighting Errol. Don't get him a belt. By the time Boots sees Virgil, he'll be champ. I like it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That's one way for it to approach it, but I do embrace the idea of the long game. I do believe that he needs to consider that. I believe that at the end of the day, Jerron Boots Ennis is back at square one, going through
Mhm.
those things he went through at 147. He has more leverage now than he did at 147, but he has to understand when it comes to this particular conversation, he's dealing with a fighter and a promoter and a manager of a fighter who believes they have a superstar in their hands. They're going to make it very expensive. They're not going to give any. They don't want to give any leverage towards Boots. If they pay the 10 million, where's the fight going to happen at? Is it going to be in Vegas, which is going to be a Vergil Ortiz crowd? Is Boots going to be the B, willing to be the B side to this conversation, treated like the B side in every way, not just the money, but in everything else that comes with it? Is that where Jerron Boots Ennis wants to be, or is Boots looking at this guy's like, you know what, you're an interim champion, bro. You don't even have a real belt. You're gonna have to fight a towering inferno. Believe it or not, you're not promised to win that fight. You know what I'm saying? You probably will, but you're not promised to win that fight. You want to roll the dice, roll the dice. I'm aligned right now. I'm number one in the WBA, and I'm number one in the WBO sanctioning bodies. I'm legitimately lined up to fight the winner of Xander Zayas and Abbas Baharu. I can fight a stay busy fight to wait for these guys to figure it out at the end of January and put myself in a position to become a unified champion, or I can fight the big fight for big money if there's a lot of money on the table against Jamel Charlo. Can Boots be okay in that position and allow Vergil Ortiz and his team to go move on and be satisfied with the fact that, you know what? I came into the ring, I faced off with this dude. I told this dude I want to fight him right to his face. I told him I was going to end him. I told him everything I could say. You saw him agree to make the fight. If this dude doesn't want to make the fight and he wants to outprice himself, I'm not going to kill myself to make this fight. Like, Ray, what do you think about that?
I think that's 100% on the nose, bro. Like what you, I was actually building to that. You know what I mean? But here's the thing: he disappears and goes and fights Earl Spence. The biggest thing is that's a risky fight. Why is that the biggest risk fight? I think more than Boots is because Earl has nothing to lose at this point. He's coming off a loss. He hasn't been active. What does it look like for Vergil? Virgil's looking like he's fighting a better version of Serhii Bayuchuk. I think Earl Spence is a very similar fighter to Vergil. Besides Earl knowing how to utilize his jab and have a little bit better footwork and able to smother punches. Vergil will have a tough time with Earl, believe it or not, and that's going to really be diabolical if he loses that fight to Earl Spence because they want to sit there and avoid Boots. And believe it or not, karma's a moso. I ain't gonna say what I wanted to say, but you know what I mean. It's a bad thing, right? So karma, what goes around comes around. You mess around and go fight a Earl Spence, bad things happen. Guess what happens? The upset. And you know what? Then you're gonna have people saying, "Well, you should have made the fight with Boots. At least if Boots would have beat you, would have been significant. You go back into the rankings. You don't drop that many points because we know what kind of star that Boots is. You fight Earl coming off a layoff, not disrespecting Earl, but Earl's been out of the ring for almost 3 years, right? You go around, you mess around, lose to Earl Spence, or even worse, a Jamal Charlo, just about the same time out the ring. What happens? Now you're in a whole different category of why you are you really that guy? Were you ever that guy? This is why you avoided Boots. All the talk start happening. Your team knew it was best for you. This is why you're here. Um, yeah, man. At the end of the day, Boots has nothing but time. To answer the question, Clay, he has nothing but time. We've seen it at 147, and guess what happens? If they start ducking him here, he moves to 160. He can get a title shot. He can take the long roll, like you said. All he has to do is unify. Unifications put you in the category of history, bro. He moves up, he goes to 160, he makes a name for himself there. I don't want to keep seeing him jump the plane so fast. I would like to see him stand there and get some good fights and fight the best in the divisions. But if the best don't want to fight him, so be it. You know what I mean? He is a dangerous fighter. But Boots has the same thing we talked about earlier. He has a he has the ability to get hurt by somebody like Vergil. But at the end of the day, if Virgil's team sees something, they know something, and that's where it comes down to. So Virgil may be that warrior, but his team don't believe that he is, and that's where it comes down to of these guys looking to go somewhere else and take vulnerable prey or wounded prey as a predator and go attack them instead of going to get a nice fresh elephant in the jungle and try to take that elephant down. And this is what's going to happen, bro. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
I think it does come down to that for Jerron Boots Anderson. I think he's accepted that as well, right? I think that move that they made, they had to embrace Eddie Hearn and Jerron Boots Anderson's team coming together full circle, had to embrace the idea that this could happen. You know what I mean? There was no secret. Robert Garcia was out there speaking. The whole team, Oscar De La Hoya, all those guys were speaking. So they had to know that it was going into enemy territory, and it had to be an understanding that at a minimum, the management wasn't interested in this fight, right? That's what this was all about, right? I heard Robert Garcia saying why didn't they invite us to Philadelphia when he was fighting Usman if they want to make this fight next. Robert Garcia, respectfully, as much of a great trainer you are and as much respect as I do have for you, that's bullshit. Right? You didn't invite Boots either to Vergil Ortiz versus Erickson Lubin. If you want to make a fight happen, you do what Boots did. You make it your business to be there. You guys weren't there because you're not interested in the fight. You guys have been trying to dismiss the value of this fight for a minute now. The whole world can see Jerron Boots Ennis is a huge threat to Vergil Ortiz. He's not a walk in the park. He's not an easy fight. So as soon as you start talking the way you're talking, we're going to see that you're trying to get away from that smoke. It is what it is. Jerron Boots Ennis at this point has done what he was supposed to do. He showed up, he showed out, and he shook up the whole entire space. And nobody should be walking away today thinking that Jerron Boots Ennis does not want to fight Vergil Ortiz Jr. But the question is going to be on the table as to whether or not Vergil Ortiz wants to fight Jerron Boots Ennis. And that being said, I think Jerron Boots Ennis can move forward almost like a David Benavidez did from Canelo. You know, David Benavidez, believe it or not, gets props for not fighting Canelo Alvarez because everybody knows the reason he didn't fight Canelo Alvarez is because Canelo didn't want to fight him.
Correct.
It's damn near a moral victory for him. He's damn near walking around. The history books will always bring this Canelo Alvarez, David Benavidez saga, and it would always look bad on Canelo Alvarez, and it always will look good on David Benavidez. The same thing here with Jerron Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz Jr. After Jerron Boots Ennis doing what he did last night, the world is going to see it for what it is. The haters are going to hate. The fans of Vergil Ortiz will play it, and they'll bring up, there was 2 opportunities for the fight to be made, and he walked away. What is Vergil supposed to do? Vergil is supposed to stay a man on his word on what he said inside that ring, which is, this is the next fight. That's what we're going to move forward from. I think Jerron Boots Ennis said the best thing in the world when Vergil tried to bring up the past and everything that was getting talked about. He said, none of that don't matter right now, bro. We're in the ring with each other. Are we gonna fight? We don't need to figure that out in this ring in front of this audience. We don't got to figure out who was talking shit, who wasn't talking shit, who started this, whatever. We don't give a damn about that. Right now, we're in the ring. Are we gonna fight or what? And he shut that shit down. And Vergil, that was Vergil's lack of experience. And really, in that moment, him talking that way, that was a little bit of the I don't want to fight you now coming out of him potentially. Right there in that moment, that was a little bit of that. What are you talking about? Like, me and you, Ray Davis, we got beef. We were talking hella shit. You talking shit on your side. I'm talking shit on my side. And we finally meet up somewhere and we getting ready to fight. And you want to figure out how this started. Are you out your mind? Not right now while we in each other's face. Are you stupid? Are you dumb?
Right. Exactly. Are we going to talk about it? Or are we going to be about it? That's it.
We in each other's face now.
Right.
It's supposed to be a fight happening. What we talking about?
Like a story I told you, Clay, about a certain 2 content creators running into each other at a 7-Eleven or some type of store, right? Same thing happened. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to say that. I don't want to bring that up because that's not the place, but I'm just saying generally, like, you know the gist of it. But the point is, you have these situations where the fighter, right? You have Boots who's used to this. This is nothing new, as you just said. He went there for a purpose. I guarantee you, that fight being in Texas was for a reason. That fight being in Texas and seeing Earl Spence there and Jamar Charlo there was for a reason. Do you see that and invite Sebastian Fundora? So you talking about he should have invited you? Why didn't you invite Fundora? You know he's out right now with a hand injury, as you pointed out with the quotation marks, right? Air quotes. So if he was out, why wasn't he there? Why did you pick these 2? And why is this name coming across your across the internet space, Earl Spence? Because that's the fight your team wants. They want a vulnerable, like I said, they want a vulnerable fighter. They want somebody they believe they can beat. But that's no walk in the park for you either. You know what I mean? And the crazy part is Vergil is trying to change I think he's trying to change boxing, such as Bud and Canelo. He's trying to bring the boxing back. You know what I mean? He has every opportunity to win. We see how hard he punches. You know what I mean? We see the opportunity of Vergil making this fight difficult for Boots. Boots is a person that sits there. He makes simple mistakes. I'm not saying Boots ain't a badass dude. He is probably the baddest dude in boxing right now, um, based on weight, pound for pound. But when we get to the point of Boots being, I'm sorry, Virgil and Boots fighting, then we have to look at the whole point. This is boxing. This is what it is. The loss doesn't matter at this point. And that's the issues I see, Clay. A lot of these people are afraid of these L's. And you talk about promoters, talking about teams, talking about management. They're afraid of these L's because they believe the money goes away. They only see greenbacks. They don't see the dynamic of the fight, what the fight brings, what the fans get out of this. They don't care anymore. This is why we got such mediocre fights with these great fighters that we call champions, these people that don't want to do certain things, and why you get shots thrown at certain fighters. I was upset the fact that a lot of people said Boots was taking tune-ups, right? You know, I was against that tune-up thing. I said I don't think it's a tune-up. Tune-ups is something that come off of what's the name? You come off an injury or a long layoff. That's a tune-up fight. Boots wanted to acclimate himself to the division. And that's exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to get a feel for what the power's like, get a feel for what the surroundings like, the fan base, all that stuff, how it is in that division. I think he moved up accordingly. Most people that move up that don't get a title shot, they take a fight in the division just to get their feet wet, right? He did that. Now he moved into the jungle. Yo, let's go, Lion. Let's get it in, young buck. Let's go. Now we're here where we're at this point. This guy calls him called him to the microphone because he's already in the ring, sat there and said he wanted to fight him, and he's turning the fight down based on what? No, well, he's not. His team is it's suspiciously looking to turn this fight down and turn away from it because of their fear of their guy taking the O. Here's the thing. Do what Benavidez does, Virgil. Take control of your career. Be the fighter that makes the shots and tell him, hey, you either in or out. You know what I mean? Lawyers can get you out of anything. So guess what? You can have the big lawyers. I can have big lawyers too. We want this fight to happen. Let's make it what it's supposed to be. Because Benavidez did that with his team, and he made the fights happen at 175. So why can't we do that with Virgil? And I think Virgil really wants this fight.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Salute to everybody who's in the building, man. I know I didn't do a rundown and shout out to everybody personally like I normally do, but there's nothing but love. I want to dive right into the topics here. Obviously, if you're in the building, hit the thumbs up, help the channel out with the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, take a moment to go ahead and do that as well. Don't miss out on that as well. Yeah, but this thing right here will roll out. We'll see what ends up happening. I think, as somebody who's been critical of Boots at times, and I have been, I feel like he wasn't an outspoken fighter the way I'd like him to be. I said it before. I was scared of Boots fans being changed into Tank fans, right? Not to say that to be fans of Tank, but just people who are just, arguing with everybody on the internet over a fighter who's not talking, right? And he really checked the boxes for me, man. He really brought it back full circle. It wasn't going to take much for Boots to bring it to where it's at right now. It was just going to take what he did last night. And I'm happy him and Eddie Hearn came to the understanding of the value of what they did last night. Because a lot of people were like, why should he do that? I mean, shout out to my brother, Jamil over there, YSM was like, well, why should he do it? Because we were talking about it before it happened and acknowledging that you already got Oscar talking this way. You already hear Vergil Ortiz Sr. talking this way. And I had told him, I said, it's the aesthetics, man. It's worth it. Even if the fight does not happen, bro. If Vergil walks away from this and if there's a game being played, I would love for Jaron Ennis to separate himself from that conversation. Leave those guys in that conversation by themselves. Let it be known that as far as me, I'm the one who showed up to his fight. I'm the one that faced off with him in his ring. I'm the one that said, come on, let's get it in. He's the one who said, we're going to let's make it happen next. That's the only fight that makes sense. So there's no more games being played because I wasn't given any grace to become a unified champion at 147. I wasn't given any grace to acclimate to the division and take my fights. Right. So what grace are you guys going to give this guy now who I've showed out and I've confronted every single one of my detractors inside that ring and made it clear, in spite of Oscar De La Hoya saying, oh, if he comes in and see him fight, I'm telling you, he's not going to want to fight him. That's a direct shot at Boots Ennis. Like Oscar low key as a he bothers me. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I think he legitimately has the forked tongue. He does have the snake's tongue. You know, I compared and I said Jerron Boots Ennis has a forked tongue, had a forked tongue with Turkey Al Sheik. And a lot of people got upset with me. Oh, you're saying Jerron Ennis? I said respectfully, I don't think that man's a snake. Obviously, I don't know him personally like that. And I'm a big fan of Jerron Boots Ennis. But I am going to say that in the past, the way he responded to certain questions, it left too many openings. He's never answered directly to a question. Do you want to fight Terrence Crawford next? Would you go up to 160 to fight him? Well, if I went up there, I couldn't come back. I wouldn't be coming back down to 154. So is that a no? You're not going to leave, or you're willing to, or what are you trying to say? Hey. I don't like that, because you got a lot of people out here, especially in this content creation space, who will take things, take something it might be and make it what it is. Right. You know what I'm saying? Take something that it might be saying and make it what he is saying. And before you know it, they're speaking in an absolute way, and it's just not good for. Right. It's not good for this space that we're in right now, where me and you are, where we're talking about boxing, because now we're either pushing false narratives or we're being haters for acknowledging the truth of the matter. Correct. So him walking into that ring and confronting Vergil Ortiz the way he did it was amazing. Spectacular. Yep. I couldn't ask him to do nothing else. And at this point, I'm not asking him to do anything else. If Vergil doesn't want this fight, if Oscar and these guys don't want to come together and make this a realistic thing that can happen to make this fight happen, move on. I'm not going to push back no more. I'm looking at this. I'm this close to looking at this the same way as David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez, and telling David, move on with your career, bro. At least in this situation, Boots, you have an opportunity. You're in line actually for a unification. Right. You're in line to be the next fight to be a unified champion in the division. With David, it was messed up because Canelo had all four of the belts. You know what I'm saying? And just locked up the whole division from him. In this case scenario, Jerron's not in a bad position like David Benavidez was. Fine, Vergil, be a superstar, bro. I'll have my career. You have your career, and if we're meant to be, we're meant to be. All that shit you're talking about.
Right. Exactly, Clay. And just to touch base on a few things, like, just to say that you're attempting to fight 2 to 3 PBC fighters. One of them's your mandatory. When you have a guy right there with the zone and Matchroom, which is basically the perfect fight card for you, that's one point that makes sense. And shout out to Mick Donnan for bringing that up. You know what I mean? Like, yes, they're with the same network basically, or the channel. Then you have the fact that what you just mentioned is Boots did everything he was supposed to do, right? He made it happen. Regardless if Vergil takes the fight or not, or he's backtracking or whatever the case may be, this just shows you exactly what it is. You know what I mean? Either he's listening to somebody or he just really doesn't want that fight. He's just talking and selling wolf tickets for the crowd. Now, when it comes to Oscar, we have to double down on this. Oscar did the same thing when Turkey Al Sheik confronted him with Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda and Bud Crawford versus Vergil Ortiz on the same night in LA. And what did Oscar say? He made that weird grimace. First, he tried to get out of it. Remember, he tried to get out of the conversation, change the subject. And Vergil's like, no, buddy, we're going to talk about this now. And they talked, and he was like, yeah, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, not Vergil. You mean Turkey, but yeah.
No, Turkey. That's what I'm saying. But it was
you had Vergil.
Oh, did I say? Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry. But yeah, he's like, let's make it happen. And Oscar's getting that fake grin, and you knew he wasn't serious about it. You know what I mean? So we know that Oscar sees flaws in his fighters against certain styles. He knows this. Blue was touching base on this the other night. He's a boxer. He analyzes these things. He knows what his fighters' weaknesses are. He knows what their strengths are. So he's looking to get the right bang for the buck, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. And I think his best opportunity will be a depleted, out of the ring Earl Spence, because, you know, like you said, Fundora, right? Fundora has a big puncher's chance of beating Vergil Ortiz, because Vergil Ortiz has something very solid that I seen in the first Tim Tszyu fight that could stop Fundora. And the same thing that did stop Fundora in the fight with Roberto, what was his name? Damn, I'm getting his name messed up. Not Brian Castano. Too many of these dudes. Anyway, let's get back.
Yeah, I think it's Brian Castano, isn't it?
No, it wasn't Brian Castano. It was I'll tell you who it was. Ramirez.
You talking about on the other side of who?
When Fedora lost that fight to
Oh, Brian Mendoza.
Mendoza. Thank you.
Yeah.
When he beat when Mendoza beat him, right? It was an overhand right. What does Virgil throw well? That overhand right. Fedora's a southpaw. That he's susceptible to that punch, so it will land. And he's very bad at inside defense when it comes to that punch, Clay. And it's a possibility he can beat Fedora, but it's also the chance of getting past that jab, which can be very dangerous. That's why I think they're saving that fight and they haven't pushed for this fight yet, because that's a problem in itself. Now you move into the boots in the situation, you got a slick fighter that can actually outbox you in the middle of the ring and probably keep it in the middle of the ring. Now, only flaws that Virgil has, Boots will have with Virgil is that fact that he likes to leave his chin out there, test bait the product, see if they're going to swing so he can catch them with something on the inside, like a nice uppercut they don't see coming, a hook or whatever. But he takes that risk. So the risk can be the thing that hurts Boots in that fight. Virgil knows that, but Oscar doesn't see that. He thinks speed kills. So he's trying to push Virgil. I'm telling you, they're trying to push Virgil out of this fight. They're trying to go to Earl Spence. Earl Spence seems like the winnable fight for them. The guy's big name, may bring some money. It's in Dallas. Both of them are from the same area. It's going to sell out. Blah 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 blah. We'll make it big, but it will hurt the fan base because the fan base is going to be happy for the return of Earl Spence, but they're also going to be upset that this Boots fight didn't happen with Vergil, who are the two young kids right there, right now, that should be making a fight happen to bring boxing back to where the forefront is. We're seeing it with Devin Haney and Brian Norman. We're seeing it with Brendan Vides taking on all the fighters over there at PBC or wherever he is for the titles and trying to get in the comments for Berterviev or Bivol. He's trying to get in that section, right, in the conversation. Then you have Bud, who just came off of fighting Canelo, which may be a rematch, by the way, because Canelo's hand is hurt, and we don't even heard anything about Bud going down or moving up or staying. We don't know what's going on there. So that's a possibility that may happen. And that was a big fight. So we need to continue to see these things grow, Clay. And the only way we're going to get boxing back is with fights like this. And Virgil, I think, knows that. He spoke on this before. Him dialing back and he wants to go to this Earl Spence thing means that, to me, it sounds like he just don't want this fight in all seriousness. And he's been selling wolf tickets. And he needs to go sit down somewhere and move forward with his career, just like he did with Stanionis.
Yeah, I don't think it's Virgil. I just don't believe it.
I don't think it's Virgil either.
So I don't think he's speaking in a way to not fight. I think he's playing his position. You know, a lot of these fighters, man, they sign up with these promoters and these management contracts, and they agree to let these guys move them the right way in their career, right? Only thing they ask for is activity and, you know, get me to a championship. Do those things. And if the promoter is doing that, if Virgil is comfortably on his way to fighting for a championship, if he is staying active, if he is making good money, then he's not going to push back with so much. You know, a lot of that is why Errol Spence was kind of conflicted a little bit with the Terrence Crawford situation, right? It was like, listen, I want this fight with Terrence, but, you know, I'm not mad at the way that the PBC's been handling me. You know, they've been getting me the big fights. I'm a unified 3-belt unified champion. I'm getting the money. So what am I really complaining about? But it does every now and then you do have that fight that moves beyond the money. It moves beyond all the politics and it gets into the bro, this is a fight I want from me, bro. This is gonna be one of the biggest fights, man. And he happens to also have that belt. I want to become undisputed. So this is super important for me. And I'm not willing to do what, like, let's say a Sebastian Fundora did and vacate my WBO title in the spirit of whatever the hell you got going on as far as the politics of money being made. Right. So Vergil is not there yet, in my opinion. Clearly, he's not there yet in the sense of willing to challenge the people in his team and demand things, right? He's going to ask, he's going to say he's willing, he's going to say he'd like, he's going to speak very respectfully in that conversation of his career, but he's not going to push back all the way. You know, he's going to take heed to his father, right? He's not going to push back against his father. And if his father's telling him that Oscar has the best plan and he has the experience and he's been here before and you got to trust him and you got Robert Garcia co-signing that, he's going to sit back and play his position. And unfortunately, that means that in a situation like this, a fight like this may not happen right now. But at the same time, Vergil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis, I've also been recorded in the past saying, I think their fight ages like wine. As long as they do what they're supposed to do, it just gets better. It gets more of a demand. There's more money involved in it. There's more legacy involved in it. if you get unifications and things like that involved in a fight between those two guys, it does add to it. But you're in a division that's a hornet's nest. It's not promised. As you're fighting these other fighters, things can happen clearly, right? Without a doubt.
Exactly.
And shout out to my brother Frequent who said, yeah, I know, I said the fork tongue thing with Jerron Ennis before. And he's right. Like, is there a nice way to say that? Even though I said respectfully, people are going to take that for what it is, right? Like in the traditional definition of the word, especially when it comes to religion, the snake is affiliated with like the devil and the liar and things of that nature. And maybe if I think hard enough, I could find a better word to describe it, right? Like I know how to describe it in multiple words, but being somebody who's been told that I could be long-winded when I want to be, right? I'm trying to find the word that kind of describes it best, but regardless, I don't mean it that way. If people want to take it that way, I can't do nothing about it, man. I'll try. I won't use it again, obviously, because I see how much it's shaking up the space. But what I truly meant by that is just saying that he leaves a lot of interpretation to be made off of what he says. He doesn't answer directly to questions and let you walking away feeling like I know what's on his mind. You know what I mean? He leaves room to do something that you didn't see coming, and he could be like, yeah, but I didn't really say it that way when I said it. I was saying it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't saying it this way. I was saying that. And that becomes frustrating as a creator to try to interpret what you're saying and be accurately describing what's on your mind and it not being accurate because you're giving me, Javante Tank Davis just did it, right? Davis said he has a list. All these fights he's gonna fight, but then he wouldn't want to say the names, right? He allowed somebody else to say, well, can I say the names? And you say yes or no. Okay, go ahead and do that. Shakur, Tio, Devin, it could be him too. And then now everybody's walking around like he said he want to fight everybody, and then he throws it in the reporter's face. When did I say I want to fight that guy? We don't got time for that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
Nobody got time for that nonsense, bro. Like speak directly to it. And Jerron Boots Ennis did that Saturday night, and that was a breath of fresh. It was refreshing to see him move that way. You know what I mean?
Yep, I agree. 1,000%. Like he couldn't do it any better. And I'm telling you that had some old. And I'm hearing a lot of even people say in the space it was old school, bro. It brought me back. It brought us back to where boxing was. None of this internet stuff where you're talking over the. No, they were in the ring, face to face. I mean, and that's the way it should have been done a long time ago. I mean, we seen the last person climb in the ring and. With Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney left the ring, and a lot of people were upset over that. They wanted to see that, that call out and manifest into something, and almost did, but it just looked bad. It looked bad, and it was a pressure thing too. We already know that was a pressure thing. That was Bob Arum knowing that it was Devin Haney, and this is me being honest, knowing that was Devin Haney's last fight with the card, and he's trying to secure that belt for Top Rank. So that way. That stuff stays over there. The championship stay there with Top Rank, knowing Devin was going back to the zone to work with Eddie Hearn and finish out his contract. He wanted to keep that there. But at the same time, I get it. Devin walked out that ring and he looked very he didn't look scared, but he just looked like he didn't want no time. He knew what time it was and his point and Shakur's point. And Shakur did what he was supposed to do. And let them talk about it. I was good with that. I was good with the comments and all the other things that came along with it. But it is what it is, man. We got to take things for what it is and see it. This right here was one of the best call outs ever. Even with your boy Earl Spence calling out Fedora, right? That was actually the last call out I think we had.
That was not a good call out.
That was worse because you talk about somebody that
you saw Spence didn't want to do it.
Yeah, they forced him to do it. Another situation they forced to do. They forced Hitchens to get in the ring, call out T.O. in his last fight. With Hitchens, or was it vice versa? Was it T.O. climbed in the ring with Hitchens? Whatever the case may be, it was and then they tried to talk about, oh, we're boys, we're with the same promotional company. I'm like, yo, that is the most weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Y'all supposed to be getting at it with each other. Y'all unified. It's just
it'd be different if it turned into a fight, and then we wouldn't be talking about it like that now with hindsight, right? Because if it turned into a fight. Okay, turned into one, but it didn't. So it was a waste of our time. We all
that's
know
what I'm saying, right? So this doesn't manifest into anything. It's going to look the same way. It's going to.
I don't think so, though. I got to push back. I don't. If this doesn't manifest into a fight, it still was worthwhile because it was still a good thing for Jerron to do it the way he did it. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, if this doesn't
Yeah,
turn into
yeah,
a
I get
fight,
it.
it's still like worth Jerron Boots Ennis's time because he was starting to get a bad
Yeah,
reputation.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
He's
was,
definitely more outspoken now. I could
yeah,
actually say that. You know what I mean? And I think he did have to do it for
yeah.
his case. But let it be known. Look where we are now. You know what I mean? In the sport, and the sport needs this. Is what I'm saying. They need this, and this is crazy that we don't have this enough. And I hope that we continue to get this in the sport. You know what I mean? After fight, we need to see either your boy call up Oshaki or Fulton, whoever wins that fight. We need to see Shushu climb into the ring and say, "I'm making my move, bro. I'm coming up here. I'm taking the winner." Like that'd be nice. I mean, it'd be a surprise, but we'll see the best wanting to fight the best, and that's what it's all about, Clay. We want to see that. We want to see these guys get in the ring, call each other out, try to make the fights happen on our behalf, the fans' behalf, not on what your record's going to look like, not on what your promoters or your management team says. And I know they got a lot of say in the game now than what they had years ago. You know what I mean? They worked for the fighters years ago. Now the fighters seem to be working for the companies, and it's sad because it's taken away from the joy of the
I
fan.
mean, the fighters have always worked for the company. You know what I'm saying? Only the special fighters really take their careers in their own hands and check their promoters and check their managers and tell them what to do and point them in the right direction. Most of the fighters have always been led. They always take their hand and take some sort of mentorship or guidance or an agreement with their manager. That's even with for example, Jerron Boots and his fighting Usman Lima, you know what I'm saying? And with the offers that were being made to Serhii Bohachuk and offers that were made to Josh Kelly and offers that were potentially made to Rashidi Ellis and all these people, and even offers that were made to Brian Norman, you know what I mean, at one point in time, and the way that came about. The fighters rarely get involved in those conversations, right? They
Right.
send their manager out to get on a mission. He goes out there, he does his best, and he comes back with the information as far as whether or not it's a go or not a go. And the fighter's not necessarily made abreast about even how much money is in the pot to offer another fighter, right? But every now and then you have a fighter who gets involved in that part of the conversation, right? Every now and then you have an Errol Spence who goes, nah, give him 50-50, make it 50-50. Give him what he wants, money wise. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Every
right,
now
right.
and then you get a Jerron Boots Ennis even at one point in time with Stanley Jonas and say, yo, give him money out my purse. I just want this unification. I don't want to be here no more if I can't get these opportunities. But most of these fighters don't move that way. I think you just got to get to a certain level in your career as far as confidence is concerned, as far as accolades is concerned, and you finally start to move accordingly, like maybe a Canelo Alvarez does, you know what I'm saying? Or how Terrence has fought against the machine to do, even though people were telling him that he wasn't even allowed to do it, or he didn't rate, or who was he to do it. He chose to move that way. Most of these fighters allow their handlers to handle their business.
Of
And
course.
unfortunately, the promoters, and that's why Turkey Al-Sheikh and Dana White are operating the way they're doing, right? And you could hate them, whatever it is, however people want to feel about it. But the reality is the reason Dana White didn't want to get involved in boxing as is because he knew the politics of the sport would never allow him to be the promoter at the level he knows he can promote. He knew he would have to kiss certain ass and he would have to deal with certain politics. And he just doesn't have that relationship with the boxing space like a Oscar De La Hoya does, like a Eddie Hearn does, like a Bob Arum, who's been here since damn near the beginning of boxing. So, you know what I'm saying, Bob Arum. But, these guys who have built these relationships with these sanctioning bodies and they're able to move their pieces and use their little inside influences to move the politics of the sport in the direction of benefiting their fighters. He didn't want to get involved in it. He saw it early. Like, I'm not getting involved in it. I'm the new guy. I'm not going to play that game. If I'm going to get involved in boxing, this is how I want to do it. I want to get around the politics and I want to put myself in a position to where I can serve the fan base because that's what keeps us going. He operates off of the league being big, not the fighters per se. Right? Like the fighters can be big off the strength of the league, but if a fighter like, for example, John Jones, I'll just give an example, right? John Jones is in a position where he's one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star in UFC, right? But as soon as John Jones started with that lip and started talking about he needed 50 million in order to fight Tom Aspinall and defend his title, and he was threatening to vacate the title, you know what Dana said? Vacate, brother. Peace, man. You had a great career. You're going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You've done it all, bro. But I'm not kissing your ass, bro, because the event is bigger than you. I'm going to continue to pack out arenas. I'm going to continue to do what I do. You are a star, and you do make the arenas more packed. You do help sell more pay-per-views. But if I'm not going to allow almost how the government reacts to terrorism. I'm not going to give into terrorist threats. Like, because if I start doing that, you're going to inspire a whole generation of fighters to move the same damn way. And where is that going to leave us? Because at the end of the day, unlike boxing, we're going to be profitable. You feel me? We're not playing that game. We're going to be profitable, and we're going to build this brand around the league and around the experience, and we're going to build it around the fans being happy about what they're seeing every time they see an event. And boxing today is not like that. Boxing is not based off the fans being excited every damn time. It's not about the best fighting about the best. It's not about mandatory. It's not about the champions. It's not about figuring that shit out. It's about delivering you uh uh uh, uh some entertainment that we're gonna take it as low as we can possibly take it to continue to make money. And
Right.
as soon as we get too low to where you're not liking what we're doing no more, we'll give you a fight all of a sudden. Boop, we'll give you a fight. And then we'll start that shit again. We'll start giving you a bunch of nobodies and fights you don't like, and then we'll do it again. And why? Because you're trying to drain the fucking swamp and get money. You're trying to get money, and Dana's in here to drain the swamp, so I say, on the opposite side. And he's trying to take all the BS out of it and give us an opportunity to see the best fighting the best. You know what I mean? Or a league where the best fights the best. I want to ask you this question though, Ray.
Yeah.
Could this whole entire situation with Errol Spence, with Jamel Charlo, with Vergil Ortiz, with Jerron Boots Ennis, this little situation right here, these four fighters, right, in combination with David Benavidez being a big and up and coming star, and a lot of other American fighters, but can this particular situation be what American boxing needs? Because this is a good like it's almost like a Four Horsemen type of feeling to it, a little bit.
I would
Right?
say yes, Clay, but I think there's more players involved. That's the problem. And we're just talking about Americans. I mean, whether you want to say Puerto Rican or not, James Eyes is still American. Last I checked, that Puerto Rico, you're born with American citizenship, regardless, right? You still have Fandora, who's an American. He's a champion at the division. I mean, so there's more players into this than necessary. Remember, a lot of these guys wanted to fight Charlo at one point or another, and they're not. They may get that opportunity, but what would Charlo be at the division? I heard you say respectfully, and I've repeated the same thing over and over on other platforms, including here. Charlo never lost. He never lost his titles. The things were taken away from him because he moved up and decided to do something, which was the most heinous thing I've ever seen in boxing. Because I think if we look at just what Bud did, right? Bud moved up, he took the fight. They still didn't strip him until after he won.
No, they only stripped him of one title, and that was
I
the
know, but it was
WBA.
one title, and it was
WBO.
after he won, right? Jamar Charlo lost at another division. He should have still been champion there. If Roach had lost, he still would have been champion at 130.
Wait, you talking about the WBO title?
I'm saying generally, like they what they did to Charlo was wrong. They took his titles away.
Wait. Let's slow down and
Okay.
not
Again,
let's not push the wrong narrative. Let's be honest.
I'm not.
His belts were not taken because he fought Canelo Alvarez. He had a belt taken because of Canelo Alvarez.
Right.
The WBO title because he had a mandatory against Simzu. That's the norm. That was normal, and they took the belt off the strength of you're not going to defend your mandatory, and you're not unifying because you're already the undisputed champion. So they took the WBO title. The rest of his titles that he lost off of inactivity. He just wasn't making the fights. He didn't come back and make the fight with Bakram. He didn't come back and make the fights with the champions in the division. So the WBC did him a big favor, or the WBA, and they made him a recess champion. But he didn't lose his belt.
I think the WBC gave him the recess, right? But here's how it happened. So the WBA stripped him WBO stripped him before the fight. Before the fight, they awarded Tim Tszyu the championship or had him fight for the championship when he announced it. When he got into the ring, the WBC, or the week before he got in the ring, or the week of, the WBC put him as champion in recess, and I believe the IBF stripped him after the loss immediately. And then the only one he had retaining was the WBA, and then the WBA was inactivity, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, what I'm saying is and they left him in recess as well. Either way, at the end of the day, the point is the guy never lost his titles. He's if I'm not mistaken, he still should be the lineal championship because he never lost it. And you have to either lose it or drop it, the lineal championship. So he's still the lineal champion. in the division, unless they found a way to take that away from him too, which is crazy. Um, I think that we have to look at what this is in the sport for his sake. Earl Spence, who has been inactive since the debacle with Bud Crawford, which just shows the levels that Bud was on. Shout out to Bud. Um, but then you have Earl Spence out there. He kind of did a similar thing. Earl Spence went out there. He stopped. He jumped in the ring with what he thought was going to be a Tim Zoo winning his fight. Turned out to be a guy that he was like, okay, I don't know why they're making me do this, but whatever. I'm gonna do it for the cameras. He does it just to keep the fight from going to Bud's hands because they try to get in the way. He was supposed to rematch Bud. Bud even accepted the rematch for a 154 bout. Still didn't happen. So the whole thing was we seen Earl move a different way. So all these fights being negotiated in the way they were, is it really a round robin? Is it really a four king era of the 154 division? I don't know, Clay. To say that, to be honest, I think if you want to include some of the champions, yeah, I could say a four kings with some with a couple of guys, what I mean, and waiting. And I can respect that because I think the namesake it is the Four Kings, but as far as with the star power, but as far as the real kings of the division, no, I don't think so. Earl hasn't even had a fight at 154, so I can't even put him in that category.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just talking about the energy as far as the excitement that it would build up. It's all in the same division. If Jamel Charlo and Earl Spence were to return to be active 154
Yeah,
pound fighters, you combine that with the new blood of Jerron Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz Jr. I see like a nice, four fighters that everybody would be interested in seeing fight each other.
hmm
And I'm saying that in the spirit of American boxing being exciting again, right? Like this would be more than just one event. This would be if Jamel and Errol were to come back in full capacity, like be active, not have us in the dark. If they
yeah,
were to officially announce their returns and be scheduled to fight, and even better, the way Rick Meridian described it, saying that he would have these guys fighting each other on the same card. In other words, Virgil fighting Errol Spence as a main event, Jerron Boots Ennis fighting Jamel Charles a co-main event. That brings up to the next fight. That's like two fights in a row. Investors, I think, could get behind that outside of Turkey Al Sheikh. You could see maybe even a network might want to jump on it, like a Netflix or something like that, might want to jump on and help finance these fights because of how big the fights would be. And could that be the boost and the spark that American boxing needs to truly move forward in a big way, where it just opens up boxing in America to a point to where networks will want to get back into working with the top ranks, the PBCs. These guys are floating out here right now without any network deals, right? I mean, PBC's doing whatever they're doing with Amazon Prime, but that shit is shaky to say the least.
right,
And Top Rank has not officially announced a network deal yet. And we're seeing fights move over to Netflix. We've seen Gervonta Tank Davis end up trying to do a circus fight with Jake Paul on Netflix. We're seeing David Benavidez in Riyadh doing a fight with Anthony Yardy on the back of a fight that Samson did put up to say we don't want to fight over there. So we already know in real time, David would probably rather not be doing what he's doing right now. He's doing what he has to do off the strength of making the fights, making the money. Obviously, the PBC wasn't able to facilitate that for him. So with all that going on in American boxing and the lack of faith of American boxing being where it once was without outside help from the Turkey Al Sheiks and the Dana Whites, who's considered foreign, just being that he's coming from a UFC background, could these fights right here, these four guys come together and potentially put something together special that can make 2026 a breakout year for American boxing and bring it back to the forefront conversation of controlling the energy.
right. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. You know, you guys let me know in the chat what you think about that long-winded shit I just said. But I do think that if you're dialed into the point I'm trying to make, very similar to the Ryan Garcia situation, getting a title fight with Barrios, right? It's like, yeah, he didn't earn it. He's coming off of a loss, but he has a huge following. And if you put a belt on a guy like that, if he acts right, if he carries himself the way we want a boxer to carry themselves, he can help make 147-pound boxing exciting again. And he can help American boxing because now, if he has a title, we're talking about big fights with a
hmm
rematch between him and Devin Haney. We're talking about fights with him, maybe a rematch with Rolly Romero, maybe a fight with Brian Norman Jr., for unification, big
Right.
fights that the American boxing space could get behind and make be a step forward in boxing being where it used to be. You're
Do
back.
you think do you think that's a good idea though? Just because the person may have star power or popularity, that they should be trying to force them into fights for championships? I think that's a little crazy and ridiculous to say the least. It's not that I don't think Garcia has deserved or not deserved championship opportunities,
Mhm.
but I think he's had one too many. And I think on his the one that he would have had a short championship, he blew it by missing weight. That and testing positive, obviously at the back end of that. But that right there would have been very good for him to actually go into that fight and beat a Devin Haney cleanly and on weight to take a title, and it would have put him in position. But now that he's moved a certain way, where he's come back off of that fight, he goes and fight Rolly Romero, he gets a championship fight, he loses, and then he goes back into the ring, get another one. This is the same thing that we seen happen to Earl Spence, and we've seen other fighters happen. This happen to other fighters, where people were even complaining about fighters getting title shots off of losses. I'm like, why is that a problem when, you know what I mean, we just seen your favorite fighter, one of your favorite fighters, get the same opportunity, and then you guys try to say it's different in Earl Spence, which I think is crazy and diabolical, to say the least, Clay. But yeah, man, boxing does need the American fighter to be big, and I get what Turkey is doing.
Let's just stay on the question that you asked. So, what's the question? You said,
Oh,
"Do I think?"
I was saying like star power, like the stars, Earl
Uh,
Spence, Ryan Garcia.
you saying,
Yeah,
"Do I think it's right for them to come back into boxing and just get title
just
shots?"
run right to the top.
No, I don't think. I think it's horrible for boxing. I think it well not horrible for boxing all the way because I'm split and like I explained it already, kind of why I'm split. But on the negative side, it discredits the value of the belts. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
When people can do things like that, even with Manny Pacquiao coming in and getting a title shot, I was like, where the hell did this come
exactly. I
from, right?
forgot about that one.
But at the end of the day, I think where American boxing is right now, American boxing is starving for big fights.
Mm,
American big fights and American big fights happening because I think as a boxing fan, we all can see big fights we would like to see happen, right? So
mm,
it's not a lack of talent, right? But the willingness to put the talent in the same ring seems to be very, these promoters are very reluctant to do it. And when you're watching Oscar De La Hoya sit in his mansion, you know what I'm saying? Doing
right.
an interview, giving you that shitty ass smile, loving his life, getting all types of rejuvenation processes done to him and fake abs put on him with his girl who looks just as artificial as he does, talking about boxing is in a good space. And we're looking at it like, damn, bro, as a fan, I'm not seeing the fights I want to see, but this guy's balling out of control. So you already see the play. You already understand that there's a crazy play being done against the boxing fan. So that's where American boxing has suffered at. So to have a Ryan Garcia be able to get a belt and be involved in big unification fights, or have an Errol Spence return back into the space as a champion and be active at 154, Jamel Charlo, these were our guys 2+ years ago. Those were the guys who were keeping American boxing alive, and they've been inactive for 2.5 years. So if they could return in an active way and be involved in the best fights happening, if the promoters can come together and understand that you can treat it like a war if you want to, and say we want to stop the Saudi Arabia invasion, we want to stop the Turkey invasion, let's tear down the across the street politics and let's come together and put all our resources together and putting the best fights we can together for the fan base. Because right now, two of our biggest promotional companies are floating around with no actual legit network deals with any teeth to the deal, right? Something that's going to help them deliver the fights to the fans. If Errol Spence and Jamel Charlo were to return into the space, I would have no problem returning into it at the highest level. Or Ryan Garcia returning into the space with his mind right at the highest level. Go get a belt. Because although I disagree with the idea of it and the belts losing credibility, the politics of the belts is already there. It's already established. So it's not going to be that shocking to the mindset, to the psyche of a boxing fan, as much as on the other side, a benefit to the boxing fan who's going to actually get to see great fights and fall in love with the sport again. And then we can return back to being upset with the sanctioning bodies and be like, what the hell are y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? But for now, I would be willing to turn my head, you know what I'm saying? Turn my head and ignore it and not blow you guys up when you guys put these events together off the strength of American boxing benefiting on it, if that makes sense.
Totally agree. All right, Clay, I gotta drop my son off. He just came in the room.
No doubt, no doubt. By
But
the way, your camera
I
been
hit
looking
up
way better.
Angelo. I hit up Angelo, and I told Angelo that, you know what I mean, if you want me, I can send him the link real quick. But
Yeah, I can send. Yeah, I'll send.
all
I
right,
should have
so
said
I
I
hit him
already
up.
sent it. I'm
All
about
right,
to go anyway, though. I'm literally about to go. Go ahead,
okay,
man. Mahala. And I want to play this. I want to play this right here that Angelo actually sent to me. I want to play this and see what's going on. Eddie Hearn's responding to the
yeah,
ultimatum.
just seen it too.
I want to see what it is. I'm going to actually put it up right now. Hold on a second.
All right, no doubt. All right, catch you later, man. Salute.
Peace. Screen share. Don't give up. Share. Let's do this. Guys, this video right here, shout out to Fight Hype. Fight Hype just put this out there. I don't know what this is. I know what it's about. It's responding to hold on a second. Participants, screen share names, and okay. This is responding to Oscar De La Hoya's ultimatum. Let's see what Eddie has to say.
Tremendous fighter. It's just the perfect style for Dalton Smith. Like, he's a master boxer, great footwork, he punches very hard. I think he'll stop Subriel Matias late in the fight. Yeah, I think it'll be a great fight though. You know, Matias has a huge heart, but this is a great style for Dalton Smith. But it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, you got a lot of fights coming up, man. You guys got Conor Ben too. What's your predictions on that fight?
Yeah,
in America. Do you have a favorite city you like to
in Frisco, it's great as well.
promote it in America? You have a good understanding.
The younger generation aren't watching TV. Look at the fights and the schedule that's upcoming in boxing to know the position that it's in. Boxing has always been a red hot sport. I don't know why. I mean, I don't care who's on what side, by the way. I don't see how is he the ace. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I don't care he's on what side, by the way. I don't see how is he the ace. I don't know. I mean, what makes you the A side? I mean, he's never won a world title, right? Boots has been a world champion. He's unified the division. I mean, I just think they're two great fighters. A side, B side, Z side. I don't give a fuck. Make the fight. Like, once you start hearing things like the terms have to be right, and you know, we want 10 million, and it's like, whoa, guys, like, do you actually want this fight or not? The terms have already been agreed in a room. Now, if we have to negotiate, we negotiate. But let's not mess the fight up because we're pretending one guy has more than the other guy. Neither of them have a belt, right? They're just number one and number two in the division. But for me, we're number one. But I'm not standing here going, we're number one, we're the A side. I don't care, because all that means is you don't want the fight. So if you truly want the fight, let's get to the table, let's continue those conversations, and let's give fight fans and the zone, for me, the best fight in American boxing. Style-wise, skill-wise, prime-wise, like everything. This is such a great fight. So I don't want to, you know, clap back at his comments. Oscar's a great promoter, and he does want to make the great fights. If you truly believe your man will win, let's just make it happen. And you know, both guys are going to go on to have fantastic careers, but these are the kind of fights that we need to see in their prime.
Is there any concern that fight may happen a little bit past the expiration date? We've seen fights where it's like the time.
Well, yeah, that's why we're saying now.
Yeah, man. That's the first time I'm watching this. I'm trying to pull this down here. Bear with me, guys. Okay, boom, and boom, or boom. Okay, boom. All right, that's the first time I'm seeing that. I'm literally just playing that in front of you guys right now for the first time. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I think Eddie Hearns is speaking exactly. Oh God, bro. Hold on, bear with me, man. Why is this doing this, bro? I think that Eddie Hearns is speaking exactly to it, you know what I mean? And we talked about it today on here, man. And he captured it, right? The A side. And shout out to the thumbnail, right? My thumbnail. Because that's what this is all about. We're back at it again with this A side conversation. And it's not going to lead to anywhere good. It rarely leads to anywhere good in making the big fights, right? Like, it makes sense with the A side conversation when it goes into any other kind of fight being made, right? But when you're talking about like Gervonta Tank Davis and Devin Haney, or Gervonta Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson, or Vergil Ortiz Jr. in this situation, and Jerron Boots Ennis, or, you know, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez, let's say, right? all of a sudden, whenever you hear about that A-side conversation and about, the negotiations, and as long as it makes sense, on the back end of seeing Vergil Ortiz Jr. and Jerron Boots Ennis have a face-off like they did inside that ring, you don't want to hear no nonsense like that. You want to hear a lot more willingness to make a fight than putting all these obstacles up in front of the fight being made, right? As soon as you start hearing about these obstacles and these reasons outside of these guys wanting to fight each other, that this fight doesn't happen, it becomes discouraging, I think, to any real boxing fan to see something like that and believe that we're going to get something that we're going to be happy with, right? And once again, whether you agree with Turkey Al-Sheikh and Dana White and what they're coming into the space with, these entities, the Dana Whites and the Turkey Al-Sheikhs, don't exist if boxing doesn't keep falling, if boxing doesn't keep falling short because of these politics that we're watching right here. If boxing doesn't continue to do that, Turkey Al-Sheikh remains a fan in Saudi Arabia watching boxing on the screen. Dana White stays in the UFC, right, putting together UFC fights, and boxing is strong on its own and does what it needs to do. But what you're seeing happen right now between Jerron Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz, in concern of like Oscar De La Hoya, Vergil Ortiz Sr., Robert Garcia, and you could even put Eddie Hearn if you want in there as well, because Eddie Hearn played his role in not allowing, well, I don't want to say not allowing, right? But just to saying his role in negotiating Jerron Boots Ennis fighting other fights outside of Vergil Ortiz when it was offered to them, right? The politics of the sport play out, and very rarely do we as fans end up on the good side of it. I mean, every now and then it works out for us, but for the most part, when you're talking like what Oscar De La Hoya is doing, and all that fake smiling and trying to play mind games with you and tell you what you like and you don't like, really, do we really want to see that? Is that the fight right now? Did you see what Vergil did? You're trying to like dismiss and convince us that it's a fight we don't want to see now, and it just leads us to believe that you're going to give us some shit we ain't asked for, and then something else is going to happen. Vergil's going to lose, or Jerron will mess around and lose, and then we won't get the fight because now it's not worth. It's just a bunch of nonsense, right? At the end of the day, boxing is from a fan point, we're ready to just see an era of boxing to where the great fights are made at the right time, when they're supposed to be done. That's what a real boxing fan, in my opinion, wants. That we don't want to see aged out fights. We saw what that looked like when Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather got in the ring. We can go down the list, right? It has to be at the right time with the right fighters where they're supposed to be at. And as long as the politics of the sport play out the way we've seen Saturday night play out, then the Dana Whites and the Turkey Al-Sheikhs are always going to have a straight up fair shot of taking the game away from traditional boxing fans as you know it. But you don't be mad at Dana. Don't be mad at Turkey. It's a capitalist society. It's a free market. If there wasn't an opening, they wouldn't be there. Be mad at your promoters. Be mad at Oscar, Al Heyman, Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, all the guys who made the politics of the sport the most important thing over the fights actually happening for the fans. That's all it comes down to, right? And anything else is just nonsense, right? It is what it is, man. Salute to everybody in the building, man. We at the end of the show, man. I appreciate you guys popping in, man. That was my 2 cents on the whole Vergil Ortiz, Erickson Lubin thing. We're going into Conor Benn, Chris Eubank 2 this weekend. Next week, we're 12 days away from the biggest fight, probably the most anticipated card of the year. Headline with David Benavidez and Anthony Yarde, and all the great fights that are going to be on that undercard. All those fights are main event worthy fights. Probably the most main event worthy fight on that card would maybe be Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes. But that fight is up. If you know that fight could steal the night and be the fight of the night, right? So a card packed out with fights. We'll be calling the fights over here tomorrow. We'll see if we can pop up at the same time. I'm trying to make this a more consistent time. Let's see what happens, man. Nothing's promised. My work schedule is crazy volatile. But let's continue to go ahead and carry boxing into the golden era. Salute to everybody who's in the building. Salute to anybody who put some color in the chat today. Shout out. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to the channel. Support the channel. Shout out to all the new subscribers. Let's get a thumbs up before you leave here if you haven't hit a thumbs up, man. Until the next one, it's an ATP Combat Media Show. And at this point, we out.
never make it this far. They hate it, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play the same.
Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming,